What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live in a living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do you go? DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you could have me at your next event. You know, I like to party with the people. Video dance parties and karaoke jams are my specialty. So if you have a little club here in central Arkansas, anywhere really in the Arkansas area that needs some karaoke jamming, give me a call. I'll see what I can do. I know, well, let's see. Oh, I could talk to you about this week's shows, but before that, let me tell you who's on the program today. J.V. Torres. Who's J.V. Torres? Well, you're going to find out in the next few minutes. So stick around for that. This week's shows, let's see, I have one public show going on this week, and that's the Rab in Conway, Arkansas on Friday nights, Friday, 8 p.m. So if you're anywhere near the Conway area, heck, if you're anywhere in the world, we got time. You can get there by Friday night, 8 p.m. until 1 in the AM. Yeah, we have a good time every Friday night at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. It's a good club. They got a full bar. The kitchen's open. They got 10 diamond style pool tables. Hey, I don't know what diamond style pool tables are, but they're pretty cool looking. Okay, it impresses me to no end. And plus, they have a pool tournament on Friday nights. So if you want to make some money, I encourage you to check out the Rab on Friday nights at 8 p.m. until almost 1 in the AM. And it's also a video dance party karaoke jam. So you can have some drinks, have some food. They got good pizzas, chicken wings, my favorite, and burgers, which I also appreciate. I've had all three of those, in fact, and not at the same time. I know I'm a big guy, but not at the same time. All right, party people. That's my one show as we break out of quarantine for this week. I know I got shows coming up. Weddings are coming up really soon too. I've been booking a lot of weddings, so I'm kind of excited about that. Weddings are my specialty. All right, party people, let's get into it with JV Torres. I'm gonna Skype JV Torres. So if you're listening to the audio version of this, I encourage you to step over to my YouTube channel, the RadioWhat.com. RadioWhat.com is the easy way to find it on YouTube, or username Keys Dan. Either one of those, you're going to find my YouTube channel, and then you can see JV Torres's lovely face. How about that? It's video as well as audio. But if you're driving in your car, if you're working out, stick to the audio, okay? You know, no sense watching videos and running into stuff or driving into stuff. That's crazy. That's crazy, I tell you. All right. I think I've spent enough time on this intro. Let's get into it with JV Torres. Skyping JV Torres now.
All right.
All right, JV Torres in the house, man. You got Keys Dan with the What Makes You Famous podcast. All right, I've been following your Twitter. You have lots of thoughts, man, lots of ideas, and I want you to spew some of those ideas because I think I need to buckle up because I'm in for a ride here. JV Torres, tell the people who you are, man.
Well, I'm a podcaster. I'm an audio and like to delve into all kinds of different conspiracies to kind of mesh them to something that would be somewhat plausible on the world stage. So I kind of incorporate a lot of these wild conspiracy theories into the storyline of the show, which is about America having a king as president.
You know, a lot of conspiracy theorists don't like to call themselves conspiracy theorists. Isn't the new term conspiracy realist?
Sure. I mean, I guess I haven't caught up to whatever you've coined phrases that they use. I totally identify with that. I believe a lot of the conspiracy theories. I do. I have no proof of it, and it makes for great fantasy writing. So I mean, keep them coming, man.
No, and I'm interested in conspiracies. I listen to a lot of podcasts myself. What's the name of your podcast?
The Rise of King.
The rise,
You might
the
want to
rise
add
of King Asilas, Asilas,
asylum.
Asilas. I'm sorry, you keep cutting in and out for some reason. Maybe when I talk over you, it fades out your microphone. So I'll try to talk and then let you talk.
That sounds fair.
Appreciate it. So tell me about King Asilas and what's the rise of it.
Well, it starts off like this, Dan, and I really go into greater detail in the novel that I'm going to be putting out later this year. But in the story, basically, what happens is America plunges into its second civil war. When you watch the news, or if you're on Twitter, or if you're on any social media, this is a phrase that gets thrown around a lot. I started this. I wrote this years ago, talking about America's Civil War, and then what would be the aftermath of that. So essentially, we're moving. And if you follow the news, if you follow politics in general, you'll notice that there is this movement, if you will, to push everything to a one party system. And if you push America into a one party system, that has all kinds of problems that come along the road. So I just wanted to use that concept of having a one party system and say, well, then if there's a one party system, then there has to be one person in charge, and that one person be a de facto king. So what happens in the story is essentially the men in the back rooms, the kingmakers, if you will, decide that rather than deal with the politics, rather than deal with parties and deal with lobbyists and senators, so they decided we're just going to do away with all that, and we'll have one guy, and that'll be our guy, and do whatever we want him to do. So that's the basis for how that happens. Is he goes up through the chains, through all the secret societies. He's Illuminati. He's one of those guys. He's one, and so they put him in there thinking, well, he's one of us, so he's going to do whatever we want him to do. He was a soldier, he follows orders. But once he became king, he turns on them, and that's what set the whole show, the series, in motion. From that point on, it's all about him versus them.
When you're talking, it rivals the politics that's going on right now. Donald Trump, he put in two judges that he thought would be on his side, but they have voted, I think, at least twice against what his wishes would have been. This is what happens. You think that this guy is going to be on your side, but people are unpredictable. And then the other thing with the two-party system going to one, you kind of reminded me of maybe these third world politics where you would have these elections, but pretty much you would get a choice of the same guy. It'd be one guy from, you say the blue party and one guy from the red party, but essentially it's the same guy. These are things I've seen in movies that have been fictionalized, but I feel like there must be some kernels of truth to some of these things. Any thoughts?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's an old Native American saying that the right wing and the left wing belong to the same bird. There's no question that I'm just going to throw it out there as my personal opinion. I think that most people are pretty much aware that the political system, at least in this country, maybe in other countries, I would imagine, do have some code in place. They all answer to a particular group, an elitist group, if you will.
Oh yeah, I believe that
Politics
there's.
is dirty. Politics is not a clean sport by any means.
Oh,
And
yeah, I wholeheartedly
when I
believe JV Torres that. I'm sorry, I wholeheartedly believe JV Torres that the politicians, some of them may go in thinking that they're going to be doing good, but eventually they get filled with slime. They get bought and paid for, and they have no choice. It seems once they get into it, and especially as they start to climb through the ranks, the farther up you go, the sludgier that slime gets. I mean, my goodness, the
yep,
JV Torres, and you say the left and the right, I say all the problems are the people that are all the way on the left and then all the way on the right. Most of us live right down the middle where we should be, to where
sure.
we all want the same things. But JV Torres, any thoughts? Keep going, man. Tell me more.
Well, I mean, I remember thinking that when I was a teenager, if you tilt a plane to the left or to the right at any angle, you're going to end up in a big circle. You're just going to go in a circle. The only way you're going to go forward is if you have even, your wings on an even plane, I guess. Uh, yeah, I mean, what you were saying about politics, slimy and whatnot. No way you can climb that without making promises, without people buying into whatever it is your campaign is all about. Sooner or later, you're going to have to sign on with whatever is on that checklist of theirs, and you're just going to have to run with it. So that's why the idea of the king was so much more appealing to me than to make it a political drama. Because with a king, you have he vied for that absolute power, so that he doesn't have to answer to anyone, and he could do whatever it is that the elitists wanted him to do. But he used that absolute power to actually hunt them. So if you think about it, it would be rather some of that kind of power. You look around and you look at Russia. A lot of people talk about Vladimir Putin having absolute power in a lot of ways, and if anyone goes against him, they get killed. The mafia is set up that way as well. It's like a big giant cartel.
And I'm
I don't think
digging.
that would be any different, honestly.
Man, I'm riding this wave. This is amazing. I knew I was going to have some fun talking to you, JV Torres, man, and
Yeah.
it's just it's a thrill a minute ride going in my head. Every sentence you talk, every syllable that you say, it sends more vibes into my head of what's going on in the world. I mean, the latest thing is the coin shortage. Okay, there's theories about that. Okay, maybe people, when they get home, they put their coins in the jar, and they haven't been taking them to the bank because the banks are closed. But there's other theories that the coin shortage is just another step in the path to a cashless society where the banks are going to run all of the money, keep track of all the money. We won't be able to get paid under the table. The kid won't be able to get your groceries for $5. Give him a Finsky, for bagging your groceries or washing your car because it's going to be cashless society. What do you think,
Yeah.
man?
Does that mean that the panhandlers on the street corners are going to walk around with these little squares on their phones? They can swipe your card to give them a buck or two. This is going to create problems for drug dealers, who deal in illicit trade. Prostitution, the mind, human trafficking is another one. People don't like talking about that stuff, but it is extremely prevalent, and it's scary. It's actually very nightmarish to think about. At any day, you could take a child or a woman or a man. It really doesn't matter. They take people for all kinds of reasons, not always sexual. Sometimes it's because they want body parts, or they want when to contract on somebody, they want something of theirs. This is a very vicious world we live in. Man.
JV Torres, people don't think that there's slavery. There's still slavery for sure. And,
Oh,
and every
yeah.
movie that I see with dystopian future is on credits. Put your thumbprint here. Get that, here, make a payment with your thumbprint. You facial recognition. Give me the eyeball. That kind of thing. Never cash
So
money.
let me ask you something, Dan. So if we're going into a cashless society, how do you think this will play out for those in the illicit trades, drugs and whatnot? How would that?
That's how they're going to sell it to us. They're going to say, oh, the drug dealers won't be able to get their cash. The prostitutes won't be able to get their money. But it's going to be a whole lot better for the whole world if there's no cash. But then there's the other side of the coin where you won't be able to get that extra dough if you do that side job. You put up somebody's cabinets and they wanted to pay you a sawbuck or two. But now the bank is going to control all that money. So it's more control, man. It's more control.
It, there's no question about that. It's about control, and Uncle Sam's going to want his piece all the time. All the time, they got to get their piece. You know, they just want to get their beaks wet, as they say in The Godfather.
Oh my goodness. I mean, and the all right, taxes. Taxes is kind of a funny thing. The IRS knows exactly how much you owe, but instead of of telling us what we owe. Give us a little card and say, "Hey, this is what you owe." You send them a check, and everybody's happy. No, now they always want you to guess what you owe. Hey, guess what you owe us, and if you guess wrong, we're going to come and audit you and maybe take you to jail. That. What do you think about this little card thing? Have you heard of that? Doing your taxes on a postcard.
Oh yeah, I've heard that. They've been talking about that for years, and it is what you say. It is a matter of control, and if you ever go the grid, or if you go against whatever it is the government wants you to do, they can certainly pull that card. If you lack of a better way of putting it, pull that card. So well, we can audit you, and maybe you haven't paid your taxes correctly over the last few years, and threaten you. And people get scared about stuff. Nobody wants to go to jail. So I mean, if they push comes to shove, if there's a particular individual they want to get on for whatever foreman or anything like that, they will definitely use that to their advantage and scare the hell out of anybody to get them to coerce them to do what they want. It is about control in a more sinister way.
Yeah, JV Torres. I'm all on the grid. I mean, I definitely know I have to pay taxes because I want the services that are provided by
Yeah.
this government. The way that we have this system entwined, I pay taxes. We get police, we get fire department, we get some services. Some essential services that we need. More taxes should be more services. Sometimes I feel like we should get an itemized bill for all the taxes that we pay. All right, I paid you $1,000. What did I get for that $1,000? Oh, you got school, you got police, you got fire. But how much? What was the itemized? Whenever I go to the grocery store, there's an itemized bill. I mean, I've heard that the people want this. I think I want that. Well, with my taxes, what am I paying for?
Well, they're not going to tell you everything that they use it for. And there's a lot of black ops. There's all kinds of secret programs that the government has that they don't want anyone to know how much money they pour into it or what it's being used for. And they'll use things like, oh, there's military, there's secret, experimental machines that they're working on, or things they don't want our enemies to get their hands on, and they'll always throw that out there. But really, this the truth might actually scare the living pants.
You're probably right. All right, JV Torres, let's go back. Tell me, how did this all start? Where did JV Torres's little brain start to develop this idea that there's something else? There's something that just they're just not telling us. Was it your parents that didn't tell you everything? Didn't tell you who Santa Claus is, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy? Was that the beginning of it, or was there something else? When did it start?
It wasn't my parents. My parents are pretty straight laced people. My mother was a very straight laced, and my father is still to this day a very straight laced guy. I mean, he may have had his indiscretions and whatnot. We won't get into that. But as far as any of the types of topics that you and I are talking about, my father never talked to me about that. This was more, I think. I had a brother-in-law growing up. He was married to my sister when I was very small, and he would think about things like that. He was very liberal, and he would always question the government. He always questioned the motives that big businesses had, or questioned the motives of the military industrial complex. And he wasn't quite as far out there as I think I've become over the years. And he's passed away years ago. I think if he were alive now, he'd be quite surprised, and we'd probably have some pretty interesting conversations. But that's, I think, where it came from. My brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law, how old
And
were
he
you
was.
when this started?
Well, let's see. My older sister, she's 15 years older than me. So by the time I was about 10 years old, they were already married and probably had a kid or two. So they were in their 20s. And I
So
was 10 years old.
yeah, so for
And
you, it started at a young age.
that hippie kind. He was a hippie dude. He had long hair. And he was from New York, so he had that chip on his shoulder.
I get it.
Talked about gang, you know. But The Godfather, I think, is what did it for me. I was probably too young to have watched it. But I remember watching The Godfather and seeing how the mafia works, and listening to them talk. And when I was really young, it didn't really dawn on me till a little bit later, until I was in my teens, because I watched The Godfather periodically throughout my entire life. Um, but listening to the mafia guys talking about politicians, they're talking about, the bigger fish in the world, and you think about it, if a mafia don, who is rich and powerful and has power over people's lives, if he's a fish in the pond, Jesus Christ, what do those big fish look like? I don't even know if I could really wrap my head around having that kind of power and money. But these people run the world, make no mistake about it, and they're extremely evil. And that's why I enjoy writing the show that I do, because I put a person who was a common guy, who was a soldier in the army, a regular guy, but he was extraordinary in other things, and he was able to get. He was able to get the. He was a bad guy himself. I guess it takes out another bad guy at that level.
My goodness, and The Godfather for sure. I was way too young. I was born in '69, and I probably saw The Godfather when I was about 10 years old, somewhere around there, and one, two, and three. And I'm sure it was somebody in my family, not my father because he was out of the picture, but maybe my grandfather showed me that movie, and it definitely changed my life. And that's my first foray into what the mafia, quote unquote, the wise guys would have been. I'm sure that I don't know everything that goes on in the mafia. I've never been involved in that, so I don't know it. I know what I read, I know what I've seen in movies, but you've actually delved into it a little bit and you write about it.
In a way, in a very distant way. Um, I even there's even a character show. His name is Quentin Capone. And I chose the name Capone by no accident. It was because I wanted to have a reference there of the mafia. Because there's a certain way that the mafia is structured, where you have your top, your head, and then you have your capo soldiers beneath him. And honestly, the king in the story is he structures his government that way, his kingdom, if you will. He structured it much in the same way that mafia would.
Oh, that's
And he,
fantastic.
and he, and he exerts his power in much the same way.
Oh, I appreciate anyone that can write, that can put their thoughts down in any kind of way that's coherent. I've thought about writing a book, I've thought about writing a blog, but my area of expertise has always been talking into a mic. Been doing this since 1986. Well, I mean, officially, professionally. Before that, I was still a blabbermouth. Always getting my mouth was always writing checks my body can't cash, and that happened, quite a bit. But okay, I mean, I want to. Where are you from?
I was born and raised in Miami, and I was raised in South Florida, a small town called Homestead. That's where I grew up.
Me
Homestead
too.
became famous in 1992 because that's where Hurricane Andrew passed through and destroyed everything in the city. And
Yeah.
that's where I grew up. It was a farm town before then, and then after the hurricane, it became more like a regular city and less like a farm town.
Okay, I'm in Conway, Arkansas now. My name is Keys Dan from the Florida Keys. I was born in Miami. I grew up in Homestead, Florida Keys, Fort Lauderdale. I ate a lot of that same dirt.
You
Nine,
know where I'm from. You know
yeah,
from Homestead, Florida.
1992 Hurricane Andrew. I was on the fire department in Key Largo, so I walked up the 20-mile stretch in front of a truck, and I was in the fire department. I was working right there in Florida City for quite a few weeks, and then I went to fire school. I had to go do some more training in '92. So yeah, I ate a lot of the
You
same dirt, man.
small world, huh?
Oh, for sure, man, for sure. I'm 51 years old. I don't know. Did you graduate high school from there?
I graduated from South Dade High School.
I graduated Western High School in Fort Lauderdale in
Now,
1986. So, and then I went to and moved to the Keys almost directly after that. 1988, I was in the Florida Keys, and I was firefighting and doing radio and DJing and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, what were you doing back then when you were in Miami?
I used to work, and so you're familiar with Kendall then. I worked at the car dealership, the big car dealership there, Kendall Toyota. and this was very unlike any other car dealership because their general manager had like a Johnny Carson type TV show. I don't know if you ever saw that. It was formatted like a TV show, but it was actually an infomercial. It was very entertaining. It was a trip and a half. It's not like I know car dealerships like to do these really weird, kooky commercials, but he had a knack. He did some funny stuff. Can't remember his name for the life of me now, but Mark Jacobson, that was his name. Mark Jacobson.
See, I couldn't remember when I was working at Exito 105.5. I think more recently, but in the early to mid 2000s, I was working at Exito 105.5, and we used to do a lot of remotes at Kendall Toyota. And yeah, that guy was big time, man. He would do. My co-host spoke Spanish better than I did. I'm bilingual enough to do a bilingual radio station, which is what we did. The two English, two Spanish, salsa, merengue, freestyle, disco, 80s music, all that kind of stuff. But I had Patricia Sequeira who spoke way better Spanish and too fast Spanish for me, and she used to do the show probably with Mark, man, because I don't remember his name, but I'm kind of remembering his face.
Yeah, hair, beard. Remember he had the white hair and the white beard.
I think I'm.
He looked like a dressed up wizard, is what he looked like to me.
Yeah, when we did the remotes, she would do the remotes with him, and I would be there, and I would put my little 2 cents in. But for the most part, it was them doing the remotes. But I did the morning show on Exito 105.5 there, and yeah, man, you're making me homesick. And my mom and my grandma are still in Key Largo, so.
It was a time or two when I actually talked to him. Like, didn't really fraternize with us, mechanics. One time he caught me somewhere and he goes, "Did you see the show last time?" I'm like, yeah, of course I did.
Sure.
And I hadn't. What are you going to say? Boss, right? It was him, and there was a couple other guys that he had. And remember that guy on the radio on She? His name was Cox.
Cox on the radio. Yes.
Cox on the.
Yes, dude, okay. He was one of my heroes. Go ahead.
He was buddies with Mark. He was buddies with those guys at Kendall Toyota.
Well, Cox on the radio, we used to do a lot of remotes together as well when I was a wee baby DJ, and we went to what was it, Atlantis? I think it was Six Flags Atlantis, and one of Cox on the radio, he would throw out lollipops to the crowd, and he would say, "Here's some Cox suckers."
The guy was too much. We used to have a name for those guys. When he would come over and they would all go up to the big office upstairs, we call them the Cocaine Cowboys.
Because that's what Miami was built on, baby. Scarface is real. It's a documentary. Okay, before Scarface, before 1980, Miami was a sleepy town. That's where old people came to retire and die eventually. But then cocaine came in at about 1980, maybe a little earlier than that. But yeah, my goodness, all these banks started popping up, going back to the banks, talking about conspiracies. Yeah, all these banks popped up because the drug dealers needed a place to hide all the cash, man. And that's what Miami was built on. That's why it's the big city it is today.
All I know is that Snowbird took on a different meaning in the late '80s there in Miami.
And here I was, I was a good boy. I was a fireman in the Keys from '89 to '99, and then I worked in Kendall at the Baptist Hospital from '97 to 2004. So I know Kendall very well. I lived there for quite a bit. So, but yeah, I was a good boy, and I stayed on this side. But I used to ride along with a lot of the cops, and I used to ride along with the DEA had a boat called the Blue Lightning or some kind of lightning down there. It was just a go fast boat to catch all these drug dealers, when they were fishing out their square groupers out of the ocean. And look up what a square grouper is, people.
Square groupers, man.
Yeah. Okay.
Miami Vice. Remember Miami Vice? That was the thing.
It was real,
TV
baby.
Show.
It was real. Okay, it wasn't that real. Okay, but it was somewhat real. There were cops that were driving around in cars that were confiscated from drug dealers, and then they had the little
Yeah.
sticker on the back that drug dollars at work, and they're driving these Corvettes and Ferraris and flash cars, and yeah, these were the cars that they confiscated from drug dealers. So yeah, it's all true, man. Okay, so you say you're from Miami, but are you living in Miami still?
No, no, I'm in Baltimore.
Baltimore. All right, I gotta
I'm,
find out where that meander came from, because I know my shot. Mine was a straight shot from Key Largo. I married a girl down in Key Largo. I met her down there. We fell in love, and we got married down there. And then her parents retired back to where they're from here in Arkansas, and she got homesick, and she said, "Can we go over there?" Well, I was on the radio. My job, I could do it anywhere. I can do this job from anywhere, really. If there's internet, I could do this. And so I said, "Yes, honey, I will go." How did you get from Miami, the Mecca, a place that you could always find something to do, and yes, it's exciting, it's adventurous, it's expensive, for the but how did you get from there to Maryland? Was it a straight shot?
well, through Miami fashion, I was avoiding getting killed, literally.
Were you in the wrong neighborhood? Did you travel to Liberty City sometimes?
No, I was in a and
In a what?
I was a local, and the other my counterpart, if you will, had a lot more money than me, and I was a lot younger than him, and so I had a feeling he was going to try to kill me. So as soon as I could get out of Miami, I did. I ended up here.
Well, okay, that's a good reason to leave, man. Fear for your life. Uh,
Book for another day.
No, that's a story right there. You have a story to tell. And I know when I was down in Miami, and if I had some money in my pocket, the girls would come a running. But if I didn't have money in my pocket, they would leave. They're looking for the BBD, the bigger, better deal. This is what I always thought of
Yes.
when I was a kid, and I think it might still, unless you find that one that will live as simply as you will. It takes a little bit of time to find that one, and thankfully, I found that one. But did you go? You went straight to Maryland? Did you know anybody there?
No, no. Well, to hide out because these people knew they had resources. They knew where I lived. I had at the time I had like three houses. Yeah, so that's another long story. But I went to hide out, and when I fell on hard times, I became a teacher, and so I met somebody so it was a colleague in the school, and she obviously liked me a lot. So I asked her if I could come over to her apartment and just kind of stay there for a few days. I know it's kind of an odd request from a colleague, but because she was so sorry, I took advantage of that and over there for a few days, and a few days became a few weeks, and then she was pregnant.
How did that happen?
I don't know. It was a complete shock to me, but as you can imagine, I was already in a dire situation, Dan. So to figure out a way to get out of the situation I was in. Otherwise, I really felt like I was if this woman had found out that I knocked somebody up, she was already like on the verge of just strangling me anyway. I knew for sure that I was in danger, so I said, "You got to get me out of here." And it just so happened that she knew some people here in Baltimore, and I got to jump up here in the city.
That's cool. Are you still teaching?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay. So a guy
And
with well, okay, a guy with the ideas that you have, the imagination, the learning. What's the grades that are you teaching?
I teach middle school.
Middle school. That's a good age. They most of those don't have knives yet. Okay, but
Oh, you'd be surprised, Dan. They got everything.
no,
Uh,
when you said that you went and you found this girl and it was pretty quick, a quick relationship, it kind of made me think of the people that are in quarantine that just started brand new relationships, and then they end up getting quarantined with this brand new relationship, and they're just getting jammed together and put. What do you think of that? I'm hearing that there's a lot of strain there. I mean, because you went through pretty quick, but hey, sometimes it works out. Did that relationship work out?
No, but it did not work out. I mean, we're still.
Did you
It
have a
wasn't.
baby?
It wasn't going to work out.
Did you end up having a baby?
Yeah, we had a daughter. We
Hey, Mazel
got
Tov! You got a baby girl. That's good.
yeah, we have a baby girl. My daughter just turned 13. So yeah, yeah, man. I had to dodge a bullet, literally and figuratively.
No, I get it. I have
But
I have one of those. I met a girl in the Keys, and now I have a 23-year-old or 24 or something like that, and she just made me a grandpa. So yeah. But then I have a 14-year-old in the house, and that's wonderful. Now I was thinking about this today. My 14-year-old used to think I used to be her hero. She used to love me with starry eyes, but then somewhere between then and now, I'm losing track. I need to get more hugs. I mean, do you still have a good relationship with your 13-year-old?
oh, my daughter, yeah, we're great. We're tight. You know,
I would
yeah.
I would love to say I'm tight with her. I love
Oh,
her,
my,
and I think she's gorgeous, and I think she's wonderful. She's the apple of my eye, but
you
I
know what?
can't get through to her.
It's more than that for me. I don't even think it's that. It's more like I understand her. And I'm more people that do, and I think she gets that. I mean, I'm still dorky to her, but she knows I get where she's coming from. She's a little bit beyond her years. In that respect, I think she's like me. Because you had asked me about my childhood,
Yeah,
and you asked me about where this all from. We talked about seeing the God at 10, et cetera, et cetera. You know, I think if your mind, even if you're young, if your mind is meant to go that way, if it can go that way, it will. Like yours did, and mine did, and I think my daughter's is too. She's cut from that mold, from that cloth, if you will.
yeah.
He goes, me.
Well, I mean, okay, it's good that you're connecting with her. I'm trying to connect with her with video games. I know she's really into that, but yeah, I'm guessing. So you have conspiracy theories in
Oh
common?
yeah, we talk about that with her. I do. I think she develops her own ideas, and a lot of the stuff that we talk about, she thinks is crazy. But I think she's more open to conspiracies and these ideas, and she listens to my show, and she always talks about the characters and the stories, and we break it down really. She wanted to see some of these angles, some of these plots, if you will. You really think some of that is possible? Like, yeah.
Oh my goodness. But it's just, you're sending chills up my spine, man. With this, give some more ideas. I mean, just the thoughts about. Well, I mean, what was the first real conspiracy theory that you thought, man, there could be some truth here.
I like the reptilian theory,
The brain.
the reptilian royal family theory.
Ah, yes, that the royal family are really reptiles in disguise. Tell me what you know about it, because I've heard only little bits about it.
Well, you got to go on YouTube and find David Icke and listen to some of the stuff he comes up with. He's really thorough about how he breaks it down. That to me is very, very interesting. It's a big part of my show, actually. Season 2, I devote a lot of time breaking down that and incorporating that theory into the story. Where the king is talking about he wants to destroy. The king is trying to destroy the evil men who are doing all these horrible things to humanity. But when he does so, he figures out that there's actually people behind them, there's actually someone above them. And when he does, he realizes that they're not even human.
Man.
they're reptilian.
See, now that I know where your
Yes.
podcast is, I listen to podcasts all day long. I get to drive around town, sometimes 10 hours a day. So 10 hours a day, I'll have my little earpiece in and listen. Now I'm going to put yours in my feed for sure. The Rise of King Asilas. Asilas?
Silent.
Asilas.
Yes.
I got to
Don't worry.
put,
The first episode because that's how I test like voice actors when they audition for the show. I would say, okay, well, listen to at least one episode so you can pronounce the king's name correct. So when they send a demo reel or an audition and they completely botch the name, I know they didn't listen.
that's for sure. Just like you
Doesn't
told your
necessarily
boss.
mean they're
That just like you told your boss at Kendall Toyota. Yeah, sure, I watched the show. Sure.
sure. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
No, I definitely wasn't going to put any false pretense that I listened to your podcast. I just knew from your Instagram you have so many ideas. It's meme central for sure, but the memes are solid memes, man. They're memes that I mean, just a lot of them are from the guy from the 5th of November. What's Guy Fawkes?
Yeah.
What do you know
Yeah.
about Guy Fawkes?
I think that they pass them around. There's one that I follow called Dilute the Power. I grab a lot of stuff from them. So I think a lot of this stuff gets recycled from big Instagram people. I'm not I believe heavily in the less is more. So I'm not like on there every single day, every hour of the day, pointing my camera at all different things. So that whenever I do post something, people rather than saturate it and people be like get bored.
Absolutely. I mean, some people live for the internet, live for likes. People like me. I just throw stuff out there, and if it sticks, it sticks. Whatever I'm thinking about, whatever I find interesting, I'll put it out there. And, like this. Talking to you, JV Torres. I know that there's a story behind. There was going to be a story behind you, and there already is a story behind you. Now, don't think I didn't forget about your parents. You said they were straight laced, but how so? What do you mean? Did they have like regular Joe jobs, or well, how straight laced?
Well, they were strict churchgoers, and my mother was a very she was a good mom. My dad, on the other hand, had a wild side to him, but he didn't drink, he didn't smoke, he didn't have any. His only vice was women. Okay, so he would go off the track, but he didn't. He was never the kind of guy to go against his boss, or he would be picketing and stuff. My mom did. My mom actually. So the story marched with Martin Luther King because he was a reverend and we were all we were minorities too, so it affected whatever affected the African American community affected Hispanic as well. So that was my mom's stance, and that was about as far as she went with it. She was not a very rebellious person, not like me.
No, I've heard these stories from
I'm
my
pretty.
Yeah, I've heard these stories from my mom. She grew up in Miami. She was born in New York, but she graduated at Central High School in Miami, and she's told me stories about the Central High Rockets and there was race problems there even in Miami. And by the time I was born and by the time I was growing up, people were people. It seemed like everybody was living well together in Miami. The culture is pretty a melting pot, people, loving each other. But she said there were lots of struggles at Central High there in Miami. But I mean, but she in the '60s when she was growing up, when she was coming along. But I wonder about that. And she's Spanish. She's Cuban, and I'm half Cuban, half Irish. So I mean, I like the people in my family are all colors of the spectrum. I have a cousin named Armandito. He's black as midnight, man, and I just thought he's Cuban. Like the show Que Pasa USA that I used to watch on PBS. He's not black. He's Cuban.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, yeah. No, it's totally different. It's with Spanish Latinos. I mean, it's very different. the way our culture is. I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist. Of course, it was just different. It's different than it is, in other cultures.
It is different, man. I think that it's getting real touchy feely, man. I remember I used to be, hey, oye, negro, cómo está, cómo va la cosa, but now, what'd you say? You said negro? Did you say
Yeah,
negro? Well,
yeah. People are touchy about things now. We would say things like that in an affectionate way. It was never meant to be degrading. But like the climate here has become so toxic. It's become so touchy that I can understand why people don't want to use that language. At least in my experience. I mean, I imagine there were people who did misuse it, but I didn't really see it.
I guess I'm
I was
part
in a
of.
black neighborhood, so
Oh, yeah, I guess I'm part of the old guard where, I must be dying. I must be a dying breed. My grandfather was one way, and I remember I mean, there was one thing that he told me, God rest his soul, and I'll repeat it now because it's something that stuck with me all these years. He said, "You can marry a black, you can marry a Cuban, you can marry a Jewish, but never marry a Puerto Rican." And I went, "Poppy, Poppy." He's Cuban, and I guess the struggles between Cubans and Puerto Ricans, and I don't know what kind of Latino you are, but the struggle, the Cubans used to swim over to Puerto Rico and steal their jobs. I guess that was the struggle.
Mexican American. My second wife was Puerto Rican. Uh, I've been married 3 times. My second wife was Puerto. My first wife grew up. I think part of her family's Puerto Rican. I've always had a good relation. I have a lot of family that's Puerto Rican mixed, and I've been to the island. It's probably one of my favorite places in the world. But we would always, I would always joke about that with my ex-wife. We would always joke about stuff like that. And my current wife, she's Salvadorian, and Salvadorians, if you're not aware, Salvadorians and Mexicans do not like each other. So it was really strange. But she kind of laughed at me. She goes, "You're not really Mexican. You're kind of a gringo." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah,
I'm a gringo to them. I'm not even Mexican, so
I guess yes.
funny. Like,
I'm third generation, so the blood is thinning. I'm definitely born in Miami. Mom was born in New York. Grandparents came over in 1948, so the blood is thinned, and yes, I can pass for a white guy. I might have a few features. My tan, I tan a little bit more than any other Caucasian would be, but it feels like to me that people should just be people. Because if I really stripped it down, I could say, well, I'm the only Cuban Irish guy that's doing this podcast right now, so you can put me in that box. But
sure,
everybody can uh, can sift themselves down to a certain thing, but you're more than just that one thing. You're more than black. You're more than white. You're more than Asian. You're more than that. You're more than Mexican American. You're more than that. You're a lot of things. And it's good to
I
delve into those. And you say you joked about things about your culture. It's good. Joke about it. Have fun.
always do. I don't apologize for that. Why should I? I think as I get older, I'm becoming that grumpy old man that get off my porch, get off my yard. I don't have to explain it. I don't want to explain it. Just get off my yard. You know. I think as I get older, I'm 48 now. I'm feeling like I'm already getting to that point where it's like I don't, I'm not going to play that game with people. I'm just not. I'm not going to explain it. I don't need to analyze it. I guess I just grew up in a different era. Chalk it up as that.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I used to be very timid about telling my age until I turned 50. For some reason, 50 was the turning point. And then I likened myself to that Molly Shannon character. I even made a little video of it. I'm 50. I can kick and punch and kick and stretch. Yeah, I just celebrated it. And now I'm
That's
51, and it keeps on rolling. It's getting better and better.
I'm,
And it
I'm
seems
49. I'll be 49 next week,
hey,
so
merry
I'm about a year
birthday.
away from the.
Excellent, man. Excellent. That's
Yeah,
fantastic. And I feel like
catch
what's that?
I said, I'm catching up to you, man.
Yeah, you'll
I
never
ran.
catch up to me, baby. No, it seems like third time's the charm. You found the right one. Doesn't matter where people are from. People can get along. You've proved it yourself. The broad generalization is Salvadorians don't get along with Mexicans, but right here in your own home, you're getting along just fine, aren't you?
My wife is my best friend in the whole world. Like I was, we've had lots of conversations, and I have told her very intimate details about my past. Where, like, I'm just grateful that I'm with somebody that is understanding and is not a hothead. Like, I can't stand being around people that are hotheads, and you see that too often. It's on social media. Like, that's why I try to. I take social media doses, man, because there's only so much anger I can take in a day. Like, there's so many angry people. I just can't deal with it. So, like, that's one of the things that I appreciate about my wife, is she's kind, she's understanding, and she's not quick with the trigger finger. She's a really chill person, man. She's awesome. She's very friendly. She's a very friendly person.
That's good,
Like,
man. I'm glad
like,
you have that. I'm glad it's good to have that in your life, man. Some love, some
yeah,
a good backer,
you
somebody that backs you up.
know, and I like scrambled eggs. I don't want to fight my food. I mean, I don't like tearing things up and masking the stuff. No, I want to be nice and soft, and when the scrambled eggs hit you, it's just like melts.
All right, my man. Well, I mean, shoot. Now we're
Black.
going. We're talking. We're doing. Talking, getting to know each other, and this is fantastic. I never know where
There's no
these. What's
there
that?
either.
Yeah, I never know where these things
That,
are going to turn, but I love it, man. I love that I'm connecting with you, and I'm finding things that you're making me think of things that are in my life and that parallel your life, and that just means that people are people, man. People are all looking for the same thing. They're looking, for a roof over their head, food on their plate, a little money in the pocket. It doesn't matter left, right. The conspiracy theory, not conspiracy theory, everything. Oh, the government is perfect. They do everything that we
well,
want.
Dan, in the grand scheme of things, if any of these conspiracies are remotely true, then the things that happen, there are more powerful men than you and I that can have an impact on what's happening. Choose to direct, the masses one direction, one way. The only thing that you and I can really control is what happens in our home, what happens in our lives. If it comes to your front door, fine, you'll deal with it then. But meanwhile, you just keep the home front, keep it as peaceful as you can, because that's your world. I mean, yeah, we can look out there. I think people get too involved with what's going on out there that they forget that what's going on right here in your house, in your living room, your bedroom, your kitchen. What's happening there. That's important. Yeah, what happens out there affects what happens in there. Yeah, but you're limited to what you can. If you can't fix out there, if you can't fix what's in,
Well, JV
you know what I
Torres,
mean?
yeah, JV Torres. I knew there was a saying that I heard, and I've had it in my head. If everybody swept their own front porch, the whole world would be clean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take care of your house, take care of what's going on in your world, and kind of look out the window, and yeah, I can see that. I see what's going on out there, but everything's good in here. Whenever I come home, the family always welcomes me to the bubble. I'm very happy about that. I have a bubble. you know
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about producing this podcast that I do, this audio drama, is that it is not real world. It is, I created, and in this world, I get to play some of the scenarios that I think that are out here. In this fiction world. For and I get a lot of strange messages from people. There's a lot of out there that think read a little too much into what I do, and then they say, like, all these breakdowns, like, they're really analytical about it. But if you're not careful, if we're not careful, if we're not careful as human beings, it's very possible something like this could. And you really don't want a king of silence in your life, because whatever good whatever there for, like, King Asilas is a fictional character, but if you put a real person in that situation and where they have absolute power, it's gonna be very ugly and it's gonna be very bad. Don't count on him to do what King Asilas does. You know, it's not going to be like that. He or she would not be able to handle that kind of power. It's you just look throughout history and the people that have had that kind of power and how it drives them mad. It drives them, and their insanity, is unleashed on the masses, on the people below, and a lot of people suffer. And we already have enough suffering in this world as it is. We don't want to have a one-party system. It would be disastrous. I don't care how many people who disagree with the left or disagree with the right. If you go one direction only, you're going to go in a big circle.
Yeah,
You're not going to move. You're not going to really progress. You won't.
man, I think the presidency is too big for one person anyway. It should be a committee of 7 or so. The presidency, the executive branch, should run kind of like the judicial branch, to where you got a bunch of smart people, that are good at different things that you can vote on at different times of the year, or different, maybe once every couple of years. Go ahead.
The problem with that is that if you have a lot of people on one thing, all it takes is for you to buy this person, and then you're going to buy that person, and then this person gets, and then that person gets bribed, and you end up with chaos.
I guess there's problems with everything
here. I'm just saying that there are a lot of flaws that we have as human beings, which is probably why these conspiracy theories are so interesting, and then why we can sit here and say, yeah, reptilians, UFOs and aliens, yeah, sure, because I think deep down inside we all want something greater than ourselves to resolve our issues for us, or that we can blame them for our issues, because we're incapable, I think, or we're unwilling, rather. We're unwilling to actually, stand up and do what we need to do for fellow man, because everybody has their own individual wants, individual needs, not realizing that somehow that infringes on somebody else's wants and their rights in their life. And if you want to have good things in life, there has to be somebody that produces that. And that's where the corruption happens, because ideally we would want everyone to have a level playing field, but in reality, that's just not how it works. The world does not, human nature doesn't allow it. It never has throughout history. And we're at this point where we want to force it to happen, and it's pushing us into that one party system to have that, power go in one direction. And that should scare the living crap out of you.
Well, a lot of
But I
people,
don't think it does.
yeah, no, a lot of people get that from religion, to where they can blame something or strive for something, or it's not my fault. It's that guy. It's that guy out there. A lot of religion does. And I was born Catholic, and I remember asking my priest question after question after question, and most of the answers I remember were, "It's a mystery. It's a mystery. It's a mystery. You don't know." And I think that it can be a crutch, and I'm not going to knock. Well, I am going to knock religion. When you preface something with, "I'm not going to do," yes, I actually am. I'm going to knock, religion a little bit, because it seems like it's a crutch sometimes when you have problems. Oh, it wasn't me; it was the devil. And when everything's going good, oh, I made it through that sickness. Hey, thank God. But it has. You have to have some self. You have some sense of self, some responsibility, of ownership. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, JV Torres?
Well, I'm still practicing Catholic. Um, I always answer. I have a lot of friends who stand on different grounds on this issue, and some of my closest friends are atheists. It's really what you described is essentially human nature. Whether they want to blame the God of the Catholic Church, or if they want to blame Allah, or if they want to blame the lizard god in Aztec country. Whatever it is, what you said. It's really pushing the blame for their own flaws or their own faults, something, so they don't have to take responsibility. Now, too easy to point to a religion or a church or something and say, well, they don't really know what's going on. Well, nobody really knows what's going on. I mean, if you put all your marbles in what NASA knows, they're thinking about stars. I mean, that's to me a crazy idea when we have so many problems here. It sounds to me like they want to run away from it. I mean, I'm just saying that these issues that we have to deal with as human beings, and I think the more we're willing to face those issues, those problems, will of us, the more we're willing to face those and try to do the right thing, if you will, for lack of a better way of putting it. Then if we're willing to do that, then we will improve as a society. But if we're unwilling to do that, we won't. And it doesn't matter if we turn into a religious society or not. It's just a matter of being responsible and being what is right, what the society deems as right. See, that's another slippery slope, because what the society deems as right may not be what everyone buys into as right. There was a time when people thought it was right to own slaves, and we know now that that's not true. There was a time when people thought a lot of things, and now because we don't agree with what they thought and what they believed. But the people at that time did believe it. People believed in, I don't know if you ever saw Apocalypto or not by Mel Gibson. That was a great movie.
No,
they believed that, the sun and the weather would rain on their crops if they yanked, hearts out of living people. And
I guess I need to check this movie out.
like, really? You think that the sun and it's going to rain because you rip somebody's heart out while they're still alive? I mean, that's insane. But they believe that. They believe that. So what do people believe now, Dan?
Oh yeah.
What do they believe now? That you wear a mask and that's gonna keep the virus away from you? Is that are they gonna think that's ridiculous 50 years from now, or are they gonna think, hey, that was the right thing? I'm asking.
Absolutely. I mean, history. Well, yeah. I guess we can go to the now, where we're at right now. And when you were talking, you were sending so many thoughts. Every syllable that you say, man, it sends different thoughts into my head. One of the, I can't. One of them was in there, but then it popped right back out. But you were talking about something, and I know it's going to come real soon. But no, but oh, okay. Talking about religion and atheists and stuff. But in the beginning of this, you said question everything. And for me, hey, I cannot absolutely say that there is a God or no God. Absolutely not. I'd be some kind of a moron if I denounced that there was some kind of a higher power, because I don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows for sure, because he hasn't
What
really.
telling you, the priest said it's a mystery, right?
It's a mystery. It's out there, man. Is it space aliens? Is it a spaghetti monster? I don't know. But I cannot discount.
Some things we're just not capable. See, I've always said that I believe this, and I kind of hint at it in the show, is that there are just some things that as human beings we're incapable of understanding. We're just incapable of it. And I like to use this analogy. A bird. You see a bird land on a wire, cable wire, right? He's perched up there and checking everything. He's looking for, I don't know, he's looking for a bug or something to eat, right? Now he's resting his feet as he's perched on this wire. He has no idea what he's perched on, does he? Has no idea what's going through underneath him. Why? Why doesn't he know this, Dan?
Why?
He doesn't know this because he's a bird. He can't know this. If you try to explain math, try to explain, how electricity works to a bird. I mean, the bird's going to look at you like you're funny, because you try to explain math to a dog or a gorilla. They're not going to understand this because their brain meant to understand. They can't understand it. Now, those are very simple examples, but if you and I, if a space alien, say, comes down and tries to say, Dan, I'm going to explain to you, how you can travel from star system to star system this equation here, and you got to use these type of chemicals, and you use these. You're gonna be like, where do I obtain it? What are you talking about? What do you mean going from? Yeah, you use what you do is you multiply blah blah blah, and then they start explaining to you. You're gonna be like, dude, I'm a talk show host on radio.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about space travel, right?
No, you're absolutely correct. If aliens do come to us, we could be like ants to them. They might.
It's like you trying to explain calculus to a dog.
Oh yeah, they might come. They might study us. Oh yeah, look at those little ants over there doing that thing. But they can squash us at any time. It's possible.
I
Anything's
mean,
possible.
that's the extreme angle. But the point I was trying to make is that there's just something not capable of understanding.
All right, my man.
That's all. Is that you just have to.
I appreciate that, JV Torres. All right, I've taken some of your time. I appreciate it so much, man. I hope this is not the last time we talk. Now that you've turned me on to your podcast, I definitely am going to put it in my feed. I listened to like a little snippet that you had on your Instagram earlier. It was like a little Rise of King Asilas episode 13, the net ray. Oh yeah, that's right, about the net ray. That is there? Do you really think there's a net ray that will take all the nuclear stuff away or kill nuclear bombs?
Well, see, the net ray and the story. Once you get to the story, there's this character that shows up. Like when you're familiar with King Arthur and Merlin, the magician, right? So that motif finds in my story as well. King has his own Merlin, who's a time traveler. His name is Gabriel. He tries to fool him first and say he's like the angel Gabriel, but he doesn't believe him. So he's from another time. He's more advanced. So he gives Asilas this knowledge. It improves his technology to get the upper hand on his enemies because he figures America now is a sole standalone country and everybody's going to try to attack them with nuclear missiles. He foresaw that happening, so he said, well, the first thing I do is I need to neutralize nuclear missiles because that's the first thing people are going to want to do to destroy us. And so the net ray was really what was created for anticipating that scenario before he started making his moves. So before he took over, Central America, he took over Canada. Imagine that. Imagine America marching into Canada and say, "Yeah, we're taking over now."
Oh, it could happen.
Europe would be like, "No, you're not doing that." And of course, he'd be like, "Okay, well then, shoot me with what you got. Send it over. Let's go see what you got, tough guy." And so Asilas wanted to do that. And so the net ray is what really that's when he shocked the world because everybody tried to shoot the nuke set, America, and they shot him out of the sky. And they're like, what the hell just happened? And now they knew they were in for a ride because that means that if he has the net ray, then you can't use nukes on him, but he can use nukes on you.
All right, JV Torres. I wanted to give people a little taste. That's episode 13 of the Rise of King Asilas. But I want people to go to your feed and start at number 1 and let the people know how to get a hold of you. How do you want them to connect with you socially?
Well, Twitter or Instagram, I'm at King Asilas. Is at JV Micah. Hopefully, Dan, you could add these on the links to when you post this.
I will.
The web, theriseofkingasilas.com. We're on iTunes. We're on all the podcasts. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it. We're everywhere. People listen to the show all over the world. We have fans all over the world. It's very, very exciting. It's such a cool feeling, man. But you probably experienced that yourself in your show. You get listeners, no idea. You get listeners from countries you never heard of before.
I love it. I love it when I get email, and I just recently I get handwritten letters, man. This is the coolest thing. And they start sending you stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is great. I don't expect anybody to send me anything, but hey, it happens. Hey, send me your address.
Well,
I'll send you something.
If you send me your address, if you text me your address later, I'll send you some King Asilas stuff.
I wasn't even fishing for that. I appreciate that, man. But
put me on your programs. At least I can do.
All right, JV Torres, thank you so much for being on the podcast. What makes you famous? And I look forward to to hearing more about this story. And catch me up as things progress. If anything changes in your life, maybe another year down the line, man, we'll talk again. But usually I
Well,
finish
maybe
these. What's that?
maybe we can talk again when the book is released, and by that time, hopefully, you've heard much of the show. We can talk about the characters if you want, or the storyline, the plot, whatever.
Absolutely.
So,
JV Torres, I usually finish these things off with last words for the people. And this could be some words that you live by, that somebody told you a long time ago, or it could be just whatever pops into your head at this moment in time. JV Torres, last words for the people.
the first step you take in making the world a better place begins in your bedroom.
Well, there you have it, party people. JV Torres, man, you never know where these things are going to go. I see JV Torres. Torres, it's a Spanish surname, so I know I got that in common with him. I'm half Latino myself. And then he says he's from South Florida, Homestead. I lived in Homestead. I was born in Miami. I know all about that area. We chewed the same dirt. But then he had to skedaddle on out of there. So it was good, man. I knew I was going to talk a little bit about conspiracy theories, but I didn't know I was going to be reminiscing about South Florida, and the Florida Keys. And man, it's good. It's good. It made me maybe a little homesick, but hey, not that Conway, Arkansas is not my home now. It's my home. I live here now. Home is where your heart is, and my heart is right here. But I do remember the days back in South Florida and the Florida Keys. Oh yeah. All right, man. Thank you, JB Torres, for being on the program. What makes you famous? And I encourage you to step on over to the rise of King Asilas, Asilas. I'm going to put all the links that I find from him in the show notes for sure. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to put him in my podcast feed as well and listen to all that good audio. I suspect it's going to be a story, man, just that parallels what could be, what could happen. All right, man. I hope that's not the last time that I talk to JV Torres for sure. Got that book coming out. Yeah, he's got a book coming out. So I'm excited to talk to him in the future about that. All right. Everybody's got a story. I love it. And if you have a story you want to tell, and if you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to give me a call at 501-470-6386 or email info@radiowhat.com. That's it for me. Keys Dan, radiowhat.com, djlittlerock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.